Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Unscheduled CEO podcast. It's Monday, the 30th of January, 2023. Let's do this. Oh, it's good to be back. So we're trying something a little bit different this week. We're doing video. So I'm not exactly sure where this video is going to end up right at this point. But if you go to the Substack, so if you go to howtobusiness.substack.com and just click on this episode, or maybe it's in the description, then you'll find out the new YouTube channel where this video is going up. That is, of course, if this video actually works. So what I'm trying here is the approach that I've been taking to the last few episodes. Oh, I need to take these out. Now you can see on video, I'm taking out the elastics from my braces. So if you've been listening to the last few episodes, if you know the general vibe of the Unscheduled CEO, it's that I am creating a podcast. I'm creating content that is unedited, that requires me just to tap one button, everything starts recording, and I can get content out every week, no matter how I feel, no matter what's going on in the business. Today, for example, I actually have quite a sore throat, so maybe we're going to have to do a short episode. I'm definitely going to be speaking more quietly. But yeah, I'm trying video. A lot of people have been requesting video. We've got to our first 1,000 listeners now. I think we're at 1,500 listeners to the Unscheduled CEO. And now I want to try out video. I personally, for one, watch a lot of my podcasts on YouTube, and I'm going to be, I'm reacting to a lot of videos from YouTube, so I think it just makes sense to get this out there on YouTube. But what I'm trying to do here, what's different, how other YouTubers do it, is I'm trying to record the audio straight to the Rodecaster here. So we've got the audio straight for the podcast. Plus, we've also got basically the video recording at the same time. I don't know if this is going to work. I've got this OBS thing set up. I can change to React scenes. I can change to this. I can open this image. I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. I've been just nerding out on how to do all of this myself. So yeah, welcome back. And again, look, if you're just listening to this on audio, that's no problem. This will continue to be an audio podcast. But if you want to see the video version of it now, go to YouTube, or, there'll be a link, like I said. Please leave a comment. Leave a comment and let me know if you enjoy having a video option as well. Maybe I'll make clips out of it and whatever. I'm just trying to scratch my own itch here because I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and YouTube is pretty much my favorite platform. So yeah, it's the 30th of January. It's the end of the month, and yeah, it's been a big month here at AJ&Smart. I think our biggest, I don't think it's definitely our biggest January ever in terms of revenue, in terms of profit. And if you were listening last week, you'll know that we ran this big live event. That's actually something that I should probably have found the video for so that we could react to it. But I did this big live event last week on Wednesday. And the goal, in the previous episode, I talked about the fact that this is just really an amazing way to market things at AJ&Smart. So we're basically selling a new course. It's called Facilitation Fundamentals. And this new course, we market it through doing these live trainings. And as of right now, so it's a few days later, we did the live stream. We did, Laura and her team did an amazing email campaign. And out of this cohort, out of this marketing experiment, I think we're at approximately, by the time you hear this episode, about 80,000 euro in revenue from that experiment, which is really nice. And yeah, that's something we're going to be pursuing. Again, I think live training is a killer way to give people a preview of what it would be like to be trained by you, So especially if you're selling online courses, it's a no-brainer to do a free live training that gives the production value, the vibe, and just shows people, what type of person you are. Now I'm hearing some pops and weird sounds here, and I don't know if that's actually going to come out. I'm not sure what's causing it. Hopefully it's not appearing in the podcast. I've got so many things set up here though. It's pretty chaotic. Okay, so yeah, the biggest thing from last week was really just the fact that we ran this marketing event, and it was fun. It was definitely stressful beforehand, and I do wonder if we could do this, if we could make the same 80K without me having to do those presentations, because those presentations are a bit annoying to create. I didn't create this presentation. Laura did, the person who's running the workshopper team. But it took up a lot of her time, and we are starting to wonder whether or not this same amount of effort could just be put into an amazing email campaign. And I'm also wondering, like, am I really needed for this sort of thing? So let's see. This, if you're looking at the video here, this is cold brew coffee. The reason I'm drinking this is because I get heartburn a lot, and cold brew coffee is lower in acidity and apparently gives you less heartburn. And I found that to be true. So Dr. Courtney here. Yeah, so last week, like I mentioned, the big thing was that marketing event. The other thing is something that's coming up tomorrow. Oh yeah, and I also said last week that I'll give you a feeling for whether or not I think this facilitation course is going to be able to add like another couple of million to the bottom line of AJ&Smart. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this was a small experiment. I think it's going to be 100K by Wednesday. It was a small experiment with a small slice of our audience, and I do think this is a multi-million euro product this year alone. But let's see the experiments that we come up with. So far, it's made about 200K since our experimental marketing launches. And there's a couple of more experiments that are going on today. If you're watching this, by the way, and you see that my face keeps going out of focus, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out this camera. It's not that easy to figure all this stuff out. Yeah, another interesting thing, if you've been following me for the last few years, you might know that I've been in this mastermind called Quantum. It is a 36,000 euro per year private community run by a guy called Sam Ovens. And Sam Ovens is this like marketing god. He's this leader in the marketing space. And he decided very suddenly after like 10 years of running this thing, it's 36K per year, 100 members. So that's a lot of money every year that this guy makes from it. Why is this not focusing on my face? Focus on my face. Maybe I need to bring this light a bit closer. Here we go. Maybe that's going to work. Yeah, so he decided really suddenly in December to shut it down. And the final mastermind call is tomorrow evening. It's going to be really interesting after, I've been personally in this mastermind for about 4 years. And honestly, I think everybody listening to this podcast, if you are running a business and you want to really learn quickly, figure out how to make more money, the best way to do that is by learning from people who've done it already. And for me, I looked to Sam Ovens when I thought about, okay, I want to sell online courses. Who is doing that better than everyone else right now? And it was Sam Ovens. And I just decided to, basically join his inner circle so that I could ask the person himself, how do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do this? And it was a complete game changer for me. Oops. It was a complete game changer. We were able to make a couple of million by ourselves without getting help from Sam. But once we joined the mastermind and showed him what we were doing, it was so easy for someone who's, I wrote this article before. Maybe I'll actually read it in this episode. But the idea that you can talk to someone who's already been there, I say it's like the person who's climbed the mountain is coming back down and can just tell you, oh yeah, just take this path and this path and this path, and then you'll get to the top of the mountain in an hour. Whereas if you don't join a mastermind or if you don't get help from other people, you have to figure it all out yourself. And I always find it really strange that so many people have so much pride and so much ego that they won't ask other people for help, or they'll ask like one time and then just give up. Like one of the things that I think has set me apart from there was another pop. Where's that pop coming from? I think there's static. I think there's a bit of static here because there's so many devices plugged in. Sorry, these pops might keep happening. I don't know why that's happening. Well, I'll listen back later and see if it's actually in the recording, but I guess it is because everything I hear here is pretty well. Okay. So yeah, for me, I do think a lot of people that I know who are, very special, very talented, but don't get very far, they tend to be the people who are very skeptical of, or don't even think about taking help from people who've already done what they want to do. I remember when I was joining Sam Oven's Mastermind, a couple of people were like, why the fuck would you spend $36K on stuff you can just find out on the internet? And I was just like, yeah, but just being around this person who is where I want to be, and being around people who are, able to spend that amount of money to be in a community who are all trying to make themselves better, that alone is going to bring me forward. That just that alone is going to move me forward. And I think for me, it's always been a thing that as soon as I can spend money to get ahead, if I have the opportunity to, and I know 36K is a lot, and this is just because I've been running AJ&Smart for such a long time, but if I can spend money to get mentors and mentors who can bring me forward faster, I'll always do it. But even in the beginning, there's a lot of people who will not mentor you for money. For example, me, I don't have a mastermind program, and so I will not mentor you for money. And so to get someone like me to mentor you, it's quite difficult. You basically have to just be my friend. Or the closest you can get to it is by being in like our higher tier programs, and once a week you can chat to me, but it's still in a group setting. And if you look at a lot of the things I've done over the last few years with this mentorship thing, with Jake Knapp, for example, or even working with someone like Kevin Rose, I really thought long and hard about how do I actually give value to these people who are way ahead of me, who, if I had access to their network or if I had access to their knowledge, it could bring me really far ahead as well. And I just had a good think about how I can help these people, and how can I help them in a way that's not creepy and not weird and not. There was another click. Maybe I'm gonna have to. It must be the static thing because I keep getting electric shocks, actually. So yeah, like how can I do this in a way that doesn't, piss them off? And, I get a lot of people contacting me on LinkedIn every day or wherever, on Instagram, and they're like, hey, John, can we have a coffee? And I'm like, zero effort has gone into that. And I start to realize that the way I do it is so much better. Because I used to always think, oh my God, I'm so lucky that I'm getting access to all of these people. But then when I see how people try to access me, I'm actually insulted. It's just like, oh, hey, I'm coming to Berlin, let's meet. For me, that's kind of a presumption that I just have nothing better to do than just to hang out and give you my advice for free. And of course, then I don't want to be mean. And so I'm usually like, oh, I'm sorry, look, that's not something I'm going to really have time to do. I'm too busy. And also I'm unscheduled and I don't want to make a meeting. But yeah, most of the time people reach out to me and they have absolutely nothing to offer. And I think I spoke about this on episode 1. There are methods to figure out, like, how do I figure out what this person wants and what this person needs so that I can provide value to them, so that they'll give me access to their networks and, let me into their inner circle, et cetera, et cetera. This is, by the way, if you don't have the money to pay for a mentor, or if the mentor that you want to work with doesn't have some sort of program. There are so many ways. Like, you might be listening to this now and you might be a bit lazy and you're like, oh, well, Jonathan already has everything. Well, yeah, but actually, if you think about it for 2 seconds, if you think about what might it be that I want right now, that you could help me with? Well, one thing that I want right now is for this podcast to grow. A really obvious thing. And another thing about that, like, we have a lot of, I get like hundreds of bullshit spam emails a day of people trying to work with AJ&Smart, like give us services. One of the most common services that people reach out to us with is like, hey, we'll do YouTube clips or YouTube reels for you. So they reach out and they say, hey, I want to do this YouTube thing for you. Hey, I think this will be great. Then I have to read through the message. I have no idea what this person is like to work with, and I don't know if they can actually do the job, and I have to respond. Whereas the way I would do that is just, spend the 10 minutes making one of these examples and say, hey, this is an example of what I could do for you. Would you like me to do 50 of these for a couple of €1,000? And that's another thing, like when we are doing these live streams, like I did last week, our audience gets to see 2 hours of me in action for free before they make a choice whether they want to see 8 hours of me in action for free in a teaching environment. And I think a lot of these things, a lot of getting what you want. And I think next week I want to do a whole episode on getting what you want. A lot of getting what you want is just being less lazy and a little bit more clever about how you go about it. Because a lot of getting what you want is about being in contact with people who've already been there before. At least for me, it was very valuable to get in contact with people who are way ahead of me, who are maybe making 20 million euro, running a bigger business than me. Nothing beats being able to sit down with someone for a week who's running a business that you'd like to have in 10 years from now, and being able to skip, maybe 8 years of it just by learning the mistakes from them, just by having dinner with them, just by hearing the real shit. And you'll never get that if you're super lazy and don't put any effort in to building a relationship with somebody. And I think that's really, the Sam Ovens thing I find really interesting, because a lot of people that I was working with, or a lot of friends, a lot of entrepreneurs who were wanting to build online course businesses, I would just tell them, hey, join Sam's Mastermind. And they're like, nah, there's no point. I'll just do this first. I'll try it myself first for a while, and then I'll see. And I used to always say, yeah, but Sam's not going to do this forever. He's so rich now that this sort of thing doesn't really matter to him. So as soon as he's bored of it, he's just going to stop. Or as soon as he gets something else that he likes to do, he's going to stop. And now, as of listening to, as of the day this episode comes out, you will never be able to join Sam's Mastermind again. You'll never have access to Sam Ovens again, likely. And that's the end of it forever. So the person who is the most successful online course seller, one of the most successful online course sellers in the world, is now off the market, doing something else and inaccessible, not on any social media platforms. And I'm very grateful that I managed to actually have access to Sam's Mastermind. So yeah, if you ever have the opportunity to, one of my rules is, if I ever have the opportunity to pay to spend time with somebody who has what I want, and it's not going to like ruin my life to pay for it, then I will pay for it. But in general, I don't ever do a deep cost benefit analysis. It's like, oh my God, I can access Sam Ovens for 36K. Can I afford 36K? Yes or no? If yes, if there's any way, yes, then I'm just going to do it. Whereas I have friends who'll be like, yeah, but like, really, am I going to get exactly 36 back? And it's like, oh, fuck's sake. You're probably, if you're running a business and you're thinking about it at that level, it's going to be a slow burn for you anyway, I think. So yeah, Sam Ovens Mastermind shutting down. It's a big deal, and I'm very curious to see who I end up learning from next, who my next mentor is, who I'm aiming for next. I mean, I'm not even sure. Like, there's a lot of I've already had the honor to spend time with a lot of really amazing people who are very far ahead of me. Another thing that's really helped is joining this program called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. If you are an entrepreneur, and your business is already making more than, you have to check the rules for your country. I think in Berlin, in Germany, it's €1 million per year. In New York, it's like 5 million per year. But if you actually already hit that checkbox of the minimum required earnings, you should definitely also join that, so that you're surrounded by other people who are probably ahead of you in the game. And that's really going to help. Like the stupidest thing you can ever do is just try to do all of this by yourself, says the guy who's doing this entire audio and video setup by himself, when there's an entire film. Like I could just sit with my team and they could help me do this, but I'm like stubbornly doing this by myself because it's fun and it's not really going to slow me down. But yeah, Sam Evans' thing shutting down made me really think about it, that there's so many people who will now never have that opportunity, who could have had that. I even had a mastermind 2 years ago. It was called The Board. And I shut it down because I didn't feel like doing it anymore. But yeah, when I was selling it, when I was thinking about it, I was like, holy shit, like I'm really giving people access to me every week for 2 hours in a small group. This is great. Like this is something that I think a lot of people who are trying to build similar businesses to AJ&Smart, I think this is something that would be valuable for them. But you still have people, who are like, oh, I think I was charging $15K per year. And you still have people who are like, 15, nice. I suppose I could just spend that on like reading more and, doing it the hard way. And I understood it, but I always felt like those people were missing out on an opportunity to ask someone, me, how, like, just basically get these massive shortcuts. And now that program is gone and I'll probably never do one again. And only about, 20 people or 25 people ever got to be part of that. And the other thing you don't really think about here is that these people who are part of that program, I just got to know them much better. And I also hang out with a couple of these people as well now. And so it's like a free mastermind after a while. And in the same way, I like off the books of the mastermind, I'm always chatting to Sam. I had a 4-hour conversation with him, Sam Evans. I had a 4-hour conversation with him a few weeks ago, just chatting in the evening while I was eating dinner. And just being able to have relaxed, casual conversations with people who are much, much, much more successful than me, nothing really beats that. If you ever get the opportunity, take the opportunity. If you find by the way, this is not a sales pitch. I have nothing to sell. I have no mastermind. But yeah, if you have the opportunity, there's two things about it. Actually, so today's episode, I should probably say this at the start. I got this feedback from my team. This episode, I found this video, and in this video, or one of our workshop or master students did a full breakdown of our business model. And this student did a little bit of freelancing for AJ&Smart, and so he actually worked for us. And while working here and talking to me, and we had a phone call, he figured out the entire business model of AJ&Smart over the years and how it changed. And I thought, getting a message here. And I thought it was pretty cool. Let's have a read here. I'm just going to pause that. One of my notifications is take tiramisu out of bag. All right, we're going to put that away. So yeah, guy called Spencer, he made a video breaking down our entire business model. So that's something I'm going to be looking at today. It is, let's see, it's this video here. Business model shifts, how AJ&Smart created two multi-million-dollar companies. So that's going to be the video I'm going to be looking at today. Really, just to close up this topic here, though, yeah, so you always have these two paths to getting a mentor. And these two paths are A, you pay for it, you pay for them, or B, you are smart and know how to provide value to people that you want to have access to. And you're not lazy. Like the laziest thing you can do, and it's also kind of like, it's also not, it also kind of ruins your chance, is just messaging someone and being like, hey, let's hang out. And even in that case, it would be better to say, hey, look, I know you probably have a lot going on, and um, even just that basic bit would be at least a bit more respectful. But the amount of emails, the amount of LinkedIn messages I get, just, hey, let's hang out. Hey, can we jump on a call and you can help me with my portfolio? I've gotten so many of these. It's unbelievable. It's like these, I don't even know what's going on in the head of somebody who does that. And often if I don't reply, they're like, oh, what are you too important? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, fucking hell. You want something from me, so put some effort in. Like, yeah, the people who put effort into things and think about what other people will want generally are more likely to get what they want. And especially if it's about getting a mentor, especially if the mentor, which is likely going to be more successful than you, especially if they don't really need anything, you have to do the work to figure out what they want. And you also have to have this, which I have. It's like I don't even know what to call it. It's like a threshold where you basically provide so much value. You provide way too much value. So for me, I will literally provide value for years and 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 years before even asking for any help or asking for anything, even if I ever do. Because for me, it's already really amazing to be able to spend any time with these people or just to work with them. What people often do is they think it's like, oh, I'll do this one thing for you. Hey, why don't you want to meet with me now? It's unbelievable. It's if you're listening to this podcast and you're looking for a mentor, and if you think it would be valuable to have someone mentor you, please don't be stupid about it. There's like an article from a guy called Ryan Holiday called The Canvas Strategy. You should definitely read that. It's about like how to actually get access to people who are more successful than you, etc., etc. Yeah. I wonder, should I, by the way, I'm a little bit sick today. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, but my throat is fucked. So yeah, I did mention it. It's not good. I'm so curious. I haven't heard that static pop for a while now. So maybe that's solved. Maybe. I have no idea. Okay, let's it's 28 minutes. Let me have another sip here. So let me summarize that. Two things. One, Sam Ovens' Mastermind is shutting down. It was great. It was a game changer for AJ&Smart. The over 120K we paid for it paid itself back multiple times over. So Sam, I know you're not listening to this podcast, although I know you've listened to some of them. Thank you, sir. Thank you for letting us into your world. And it's sad to see you go. He's now building school.com, SKOOL.com. I can show you what that looks like because our communities are built on school.com. If I press Control-2, here we go. So here's School. It's if you're listening to the audio, it's basically a community. It's a website. It's a piece of software, website, whatever, service where you can build communities. And we've built our Workshopper Master, which is our high tier community, and our Facilitator Club communities on here. This is the Facilitator Club community. It's a really nice tool to build communities. And I don't remember what it costs per month. I think it costs $99 $5 a month or something like that. But yeah, Sam runs that now, and he's sold consulting.com, which is his business, to another guy, actually an Irish guy. So consulting.com is no longer owned by Sam Ovens. It is being run by some Irish guy who's not me. All right. So Sam's Quantum Mastermind, end of an era. I'm going to drink to that. Now I have ice in my mouth, so we gotta wait this one out. And please, if you listen to this podcast and you're trying to get ahead, mentors are a really valuable thing. Find people who are, and don't like Google, hey, I need a mentor. Don't find people who actually call themselves mentors. Look for people who are where you want to be. That's what you want to do. Look for people who are where you want to be, and then you just have to be smart enough to figure out how to get their attention and to get them to want to hang out with you. And if you can't, it's just your lack of effort. To be honest, I know I should be like, well, here's the exact step-by-step process for finding a mentor. But actually, it's fucking effort. Put some effort in. Like, you can literally spend time with anybody, maybe bar the president of the United States or something. But I've never not been able to get access to someone who's way more important than me, even when I'm still a nobody to most people. But even when I was a zero body and just like starting out in UX design, I was always able to get in the room with people who were way ahead of me just through putting in some fucking effort. I'll give you some examples. Jake Knapp, right? Jake Knapp, the guy who wrote the book Sprint. How did I end up being friends with him, and how did we end up working together? I didn't just message him and say, hey, I want to meet, teach me stuff. First, I wrote an article, which I thought would make his book look really good. It was and hopefully it did. It was an article about how we've been using the design sprint process for doing sprints with the World Food Program. I could have easily just been like a lot of people don't use those opportunities. Like I really clearly stated in that article, this is Jake's book. Everything we've done here is because of the book. The book is amazing, and it's true. And then I sent that to Jake. First email I've ever sent to him. I just said, hey, I've written this article. I think it could be cool for your test case studies about design sprints, and they loved it. And then when he replied to it, I responded saying, by the way, I'm going to be in San Francisco in February, and I would love to hang out. I also have an idea of something that we could do together. And I went to San Francisco. I presented him with a business proposition, which was, I think, very attractive. So already I came with something very attractive. And then after a while, I offered to run this podcast, the Jake and Jonathan Product Breakfast Club podcast. I took all of the production side of it, all of the financial side of it off his hands. And I never asked for anything because I was already getting an amazing time hanging around with Jake, right? That's an example of getting access to someone who's way ahead of you and has an amazing network by actually providing value, like really, actually providing value. And most people say, yeah, but I have nothing to provide, blah, blah, blah. It is laziness. I'm sorry, it's laziness. I know maybe I'll get some shit about saying this. But I decided after the last three episodes, because I'm always so worried about angry online mob, I've been like, I know it's really privileged to say this. I know it's really privileged to say that. But I want to stop having to say that every sentence. This podcast is for people who want to be entrepreneurs, who want to build businesses, who are interested in seeing the behind the scenes of a multi-million-dollar business. I don't want to be like, oh yeah, well, this is very privileged for me to say the entire time when, it's kind of it's just a thing I will have to say before every sentence because it is a business podcast. Okay, so, yeah, it keeps peaking, but maybe I should just listen to the roadcaster here. Doesn't say it's peaking, so I'm just going to stick to that. I'm talking about the audio. All right, so we've got the video has been working so far. Maybe you'll see on YouTube whether it's working. And I think what we can do is take a quick break, which is going to be tricky for me to do on this double setup here. We're going to take a quick break, and what we'll talk about afterwards, we're going to look at this video, breaking down the entire AJ&Smart business model from scratch, and I'll react to it. I'll tell you what's correct, what's incorrect. I'll give you kind of the behind the scenes. So if you've ever been curious about literally everything about how we make money at AJ&Smart, this next section will be for you. Okay. So I'm going to hit pause here. So if you're listening on audio, bye-bye. Talk to you in a little bit. And if you're watching here, I'm going to pause recording and I'll talk to you all soon. Okay, I did that wrong. Let's try it again. Let's try that again. All right. Okay, we're going back here. Okay. Stop that. All right, let's try this again. And we are back. Welcome back to the Unscheduled CEO podcast. We're now going to be looking behind the scenes of a leaked AJ&Smart business model. So, an ex-AJ&Smart employee has leaked our business model. That would actually be a really good title, I think. I don't know if he'll like that. Because Spencer worked at AJ&Smart as a freelancer, it's not really technically an ex-AJ&Smart employee. It's not really true, but it does sound more dramatic. So we'll see. So Spencer was working on the consulting team at AJ&Smart. I actually don't really know what he was doing on that team, as in I don't know what projects he did, because like I said, I'm not, maybe you know this, I'm not super involved in the day-to-day of running the consulting business. But yeah, he was working on the consulting business in 2022, and he contacted me in December or November 2022, and he was like, hey, I want to do this video. I want to do this breakdown of the AJ&Smart business model. I already have a pretty good idea how it works. Would you be up for having a call? By the way, relating to this previous topic, like why did I jump on a call with him? Like, why would I put this effort into helping someone? Well, he's in our highest tier program, Workshopper Master. People in Workshopper Master, generally have easier access to me just because they have, we have these weekly calls and I'm on most of them. And so, I don't know, I just get to know people a bit better. And of course, also a lot of people at AJ&Smart get hired from that group. So my team is always looking for new people to hire or use as freelancers. And yeah, Spencer got hired from that group. And I was just like, yeah, sounds good. Just call my phone. And so while I was walking home from work and doing shopping, I answered some of Spencer's questions. And he came out with this really fucking good video. I'm really impressed. I actually haven't, I've only watched like bits and pieces of it, but I'm very impressed in general at the production quality. So yeah, I thought let's take a look at that video or listen to that video and let's see if he got it right. And I don't know how well this is going to work in audio, and I don't know how much of it I'm going to watch, but he's using the business model canvas to kind of break down our business model. So let's move to the reaction visual, and I'm going to go, he posted it in here in the Workshopper Master community, And I'm just going to jump straight to YouTube.
Have you ever wondered how some...
Oh, let me just make sure that's working. All right.
Have you ever wondered how some businesses seem to be able to reinvent themselves time and time again? Well, in this video, I'm going to talk about how AJ&Smart reinvented themselves twice, moving from a struggling agency to a...
Moving from a struggling agency. All right, interesting. All right, Spencer.
global leader and enabling people like you to completely change the way they work.
Skipping.
We'll know that because it's been brought so vividly into every part of our lives in the last few years. But just knowing...
Oh, I probably skipped something important there. No, but I'm going to skip ahead. What is business model innovation? Okay, AJ&Smart. Let's skip ahead to AJ&Smart.
There's one company...
Oh, by the way, a Spencer Iris is his channel. SpencerAyres if you want to watch this video.
That I know very well that has transformed their whole business model, not just once, but twice in the last 6 years. And that's AJ&Smart. And for those of you that aren't familiar with who AJ&Smart are, they're a Berlin-based...
By the way, this is not like an ad for AJ&Smart. Spencer is making this because he wants to make his own content and get his own followers. And he thought this would be a good idea. And I actually do think it's a good idea. Using like piggybacking off a company that you've worked for and making content from that.
Design studio, best known for delivering design sprints to corporate clients, as well as teaching people how to run design sprints themselves. But things haven't always been like this for AJ&Smart. I'm going to tell you this story of AJ&Smart's 2 business model innovations that have catapulted them to where they are right now using the business model canvas by Strategyzer. So in order to get...
Just to be clear, we didn't use the business model canvas to come up with our business model. That just developed over time, and he's using the business model canvas to present it visually and talk about it.
An accurate picture of the steps that AJ&Smart actually took. I managed to have a chat on the...
This guy, Spencer's like video setup is so much fucking better than mine.
Phone with the founder and CEO, Jonathan Courtney.
That's me.
Now, as an aside, that call was full to the brim of value. I'd love to share all the insights from that conversation, but that's going to have to be saved for another time. So let's first take a look at how AJ&Smart's business model used to look. So as you can see, I've got a business model canvas.
I'm not sure exactly how this is going to work in audio. Like I said, I'll just shut it down if it doesn't. But he's got a business model canvas. I think it's going to work audio wise, so just be patient. But again, if you're on YouTube, you should be able to see this if I've actually... Have I hit the record button? Yes. All right, let's watch.
This by Strategyzer inside a Miro board, which is my tool of preference for delivering remote workshops, as well as pretty much everything. In fact...
See, he's advertising his ability to run remote workshops, which I really like. This is good content creation. He's giving value. Well, there's 3 things here that are actually really cool. Number 1, he has actually created content that I am going to react to, which, you know, pushes people towards his content. I also then pay attention to it. He then is showing, he's giving value because people want to learn about our business model. But he's also, so he's kind of, you know, using something popular-ish to grow his channel. But he's also then showing what he does through doing something else, which is cool. So that clients know that he does this stuff.
I probably live most of my life inside a Miro board these days. It's that good a tool. Now, firstly, let's have a look at the proposition, the value proposition for AJ&Smart. So essentially, AJ&Smart were a full-stack design and development agency, doing pretty much the same thing as you can imagine most design agencies do. And the relationships that they have with their customers is all based around a brief. You get the idea here, nothing special, nothing unique about this agency. They would find...
Yeah, we were pretty much a boring UX design agency that did like websites and apps and all that kind of shit.
People that needed a website building or a design doing, they would base it around a brief, and the scope of that would depend basically...
Oh, Spencer, I can actually hear like a kind of like a noise. There's some noise in the background of your audio. It seems to be coming from the mic. I don't know if you're listening to this podcast, but maybe you're using one of those cloud boosters on your mic, and it's creating a little bit of noise. I can hear, because I thought it was coming from my headphones there.
On the budget. I remember in the
I mean, it sounds amazing, but there's a little bit of noise there.
call I had with Jonathan Courtney, he would talk about putting a price out for a piece of work. And if it's too much, they'd then just arbitrarily change some of the numbers so that they're reducing the amount of scope and the amount of days that they might be working on it. That's really what the business model was based entirely on. A company needing some work doing around the UX or design or development world, they would scope out how many days that would take.
I remember making these fucking proposals for companies, and it's like 12 UX days, 10 UI days, 20 development days, and it's, I don't know, 25,000 euro. And then the client comes back and says, we actually only need 18 UX days, and can we reduce the development days down to like 22? And we're like, yeah, sure. And then it's 22,000 euro. It was all arbitrary. It's all made up. By the way, that's what every agency does.
And then depending on the budget, get the work or not get the work. Now, as you can imagine, the channels to find those organizations, those businesses that need some of that work would have been things like word of mouth, would have been testimonials, would have been their website that they had, basically competing in a very saturated.
We actually didn't have a website for quite a long time. We did have, you could go to AJ&Smart.com. By the way, sorry, my voice is really getting fucked up now. You could go to AJ&Smart.com, but there was nothing on it.
Pond with a lot of other agencies. And of course, what that means is from their revenues perspective, they got work for the amount of days that they did. They earned more money by selling more days, by making the scope look bigger. And it was always a little bit of a guesswork to try to figure out what price you should be selling things for. The fairly standard day rates, very difficult to grow and scale from that position.
Yes.
Now, I'm not going to focus too much on the other side of the business model, essentially how they operate, because you can kind of imagine they've got UX designers, they've got developers, they've probably got some kind of sales team and maybe a small kind of marketing function as well to try to get that new business.
Well, in the beginning, we didn't have any marketing people. We didn't have any salespeople. That was basically me and my co-founder.
It's nothing groundbreaking. What I'm going to do, though, is talk about that when we go on to the next stage, which is their first business model innovation that transformed them from a homogenous agency like everybody else into something really quite unique. So before we go into the big business model innovation that happened, one of the things I wanted to talk about was a catalyst for why this change happened. Now, when I had the conversation with Jonathan Courtney, he said that he was inspired after reading a book called Built to Sell.
Yeah, I read it over Christmas one year, and I was just like, fuck.
Which is a story really about how you can take a business that isn't really sellable, as in it's not really worth anything if someone wanted to buy it, and turn it into a business that could be sold. So he'd read this book and he was exploring what kind of things he might be able to do to his business to make it more sellable and more attractive to potential buyers, and essentially make sure that that business is sustainable without him, which is one of those core messages of that book. And then
such a big thing. I always find it weird when I meet like someone who's been running an agency for like 15 years or 10 years and that they don't think about these things. Like I used to mentor anyway, but like people sometimes get through to me and they're like, hey, can we chat about my agency? And I'm like, wait, you're still doing client work? Like you personally are still doing client work and you're wondering why the agency is not growing. I think that's weird. I think that's like, maybe some people are just not good entrepreneurs, and some people still, 50 years later would still be in the same position. And maybe, it's just I do speak to a lot of agency owners who are struggling still 10 years later to get clients, still struggling, really stressed out doing client work themselves. And I'm just wondering, maybe they don't read, or maybe they don't try to get mentors, or I don't know. I feel like my observation is that they lock themselves off and in this they've created this little world for themselves about what an agency should be, and they just don't take any outside advice and end up in these weird positions which suck.
Along came the book Sprint by Jake Knapp. And this was his moment where everything kind of changed. Now, this book really was
I read that book on a flight to Lufthansa. We were doing some work with them, and I brought Sprint with me, and I read the entire book on the flight.
vehicle that pulled everything together and enabled him to realize that dream of being a company that could exist without him and could actually be sold if he ever wanted it to. Now, in the book Invincible Company by Alex Osterwalder, he talks about business model shifts. Now, one of the shifts that Jonathan Courtney did with AJ&Smart was a value proposition shift. And they moved.
What I love about this video, really, Spencer is showing his depth of knowledge. He's showing, like, a lot of people in our workshop or master community try to make content. But I think one of the things that they maybe miss is showing what they can do through content that's actually interesting to everybody. And this is really interesting. This content is interesting. And he gets to show that he knows all of this stuff without having to say it, which is kind of cool.
From a service company, which is essentially a full stack design and development agency, and they moved their proposition to solving your challenges in just 1 week. Now, in order to do this, they also changed their customer segments. Instead of focusing on local business and maybe smaller firms, they were able to take this approach and this step-by-step methodology and recipe for solving different business problems and take it to big corporates, something that wasn't really being done with people that were using the design sprint, because the design sprint was more focused on startups. Now, Jonathan used another tool, something that Russell Brunson calls the Dream 100.
And I think Lufthansa was our first big corporate that we used the design sprint with. And then it was Western Digital. SanDisk was the next one.
Identifying key partners that can enable you to access a bigger, wider audience and maybe be a catalyst for growth. Now, what Jonathan Courtney did was he actually partnered up. He flew over to meet Jake Knapp, the author of...
And you heard that story earlier. It's all connecting.
Sprint, the book. And they actually formed a partnership that Jake Knapp just couldn't refuse. Now, what this partnership really meant for AJ&Smart was that they became a trusted partner for delivery of design sprints, and they really started to own the words design sprint across all.
In the same way that we're going to own facilitation. I'm telling you this in advance. I know not a lot of people listen to this podcast, but we're doing the same thing for facilitation.
Media platforms. And what that partnership really looked like was around the channels. And this is where it get really exciting for AJ&Smart. They started to create an enormous body of content. They had YouTube channels, podcasts with Jake Knapp. So if anybody was looking for information about how to run design sprints, what they would generally find is the content of Jonathan Courtney, either talking to Jake Knapp or imparting.
And by the way, for me, these were not like original me being really a genius coming up with these ideas. I was just following Gary Vee, and I was like, I think the difference between me and a lot of people is I look at what somebody's doing and then I say, okay, I'm going to try that. And I don't question it. I just try it for a while without being like, oh, this wouldn't work for us and blah, blah, blah. And then I just see what happens. Whereas a lot of people just look at Gary Vee and they're like, no, I don't like him. Like I remember we had, our content team at AJ&Smart back then when I created the content team. Every time I would kind of come to them and say, hey, there's this thing that Gary Vee is doing. I want to try it. The team would always be like, no, I don't like Gary Vee, blah, blah, blah. And I would just go and do it myself. This kind of, with content especially, just look at what people are doing where it's working and just copy them in the beginning and then just try to add your own flair. This podcast, like this video podcast right now, this open-ended, this kind of unedited approach, which I know some people don't like, but I like it. I'm kind of copying Twitch streamers that I watch. I am not original. The only thing that's original here is me personally. I am different to these people. I'm not the same person as them, but I'm just using the same system. So yeah, when we were doing content, it wasn't hyper original. I was just copying what other people were doing.
Putting some kind of amazing value about what design sprints really are all about. And what those things really meant was that AJ&Smart could start to move away from day rate work and selling more days in order to make more money. And they could sell a single product. With every sales proposal that they wrote, they increased the price a bit more until it got to the point where sales started to drop. So as we zoom out of our business model canvas, you can see how it all starts to work together. Firstly, they set out to dominate the design sprint world. They did this by connecting with Jake Knapp, who wrote the design sprint book. That partnership meant that they were able to create content, YouTube videos, podcasts, and a whole load of other things. That
a couple of key partners are missing. I would definitely say Kevin Rose was a very big key partner. After we worked with him on the Oak app, he connected us to True Ventures, which is like one of the biggest and best Silicon Valley venture capital firms, and they really helped us getting a lot of clients as well. But it's good to just show, this is just showing an example. Of course, Spencer doesn't know the entire history of AJ&Smart.
Enabled them to get kudos and credentials to be the trusted partner for delivery of design sprints, particularly focused on big corporates. That enabled them to sell and to deliver their value proposition of solving your challenges in just 1 week by running a design sprint. Now, the delivery teams of 3 people, a designer, a facilitator, and a user researcher, meant that they were able to do this at scale. That, of course, led to selling a single product and rapidly increasing the price of that product so they could really make some good profits. So as I said at the beginning of this video, AJ&Smart actually had 2 business model shifts that enabled them to capitalize on an enormous opportunity.
It's a really good video. Really, so well done. And also, it's quite engaging. For something that I think could be quite boring, I think he's done a really good... It's like the opposite of my podcast. It's, you know, this is heavily edited and really well narrated and well prepared, but I get to like watch it, which is great.
So let's have a look at that second business model innovation now. So after running hundreds of design sprints, there was clearly enormous demand for them running design sprints, but they also noticed that people wanted to learn how to run design sprints themselves. So they ran some experiments to figure out if there was a new value proposition that could capitalize on this demand that people had to run their own design sprints. Starting off with their value proposition. Essentially, learn how to run a design sprint. Now, of course, what they already knew is that they had these great channels because they were creating so much content, and that content was really proving that the new customer segment might be an interesting opportunity to go after individuals that were wanting to run those design sprints. Now, what they already had in their back pocket as a result of the content that they were creating were these enormous super fans. They were giving away so much valuable content through YouTube and blogs that their subscribers were
Yeah, a lot of the thing with content, I mean, our competitors, which I'm very happy that our competitors didn't manage to pull this off. But most of our competitors, they just give up making content after a few weeks. I heard a statistic yesterday that 90% of podcasters don't get to episode 3. And then out of the last 10% of people, they don't, like, only 1% get to episode 20 or something like that. Our content was our secret weapon because, you know, people in companies, so somebody working in Lufthansa, like an employee of Lufthansa or an employee of, I don't know, Amex, they're watching our videos on YouTube because they want to learn the stuff for themselves. And then they tell their boss, hey, can we like do a training, you know, when we're spending our budget this year, can we ask if AJ&Smart can train our team? It was like, I remember being in the New York Times office doing this hackathon with Jake. And then we were getting a tour of the New York Times office and like the kind of newsroom. And I remember looking into a room, like into a meeting room. And there I am on the big screen. Like they're watching the LDJ video that I created on YouTube to teach themselves how to run LDJ. And they didn't even know I was there. And I knocked on the window. I was waving at them. But yeah, it's just making great content or making fun, entertaining content and just making it repeatedly and just keep at it. It's hard to compete with.
Skyrocketing on YouTube. Now, when you have an enormous fan base like that, it's actually pretty easy to mobilize that and turn them into paying customers. And that's exactly what they did first. So for these superfans, what they decided to do was open up a product ladder. They started to gather email addresses, giving away free content, giving away blogs in order to get email addresses. And with those email addresses, they essentially created a product ladder. Now, the way that a product ladder works is that you give away for
We call it a value ladder at AJ&Smart, but I'm sure it's the same thing. I actually don't know what he's about to talk about here, but I think it's the same thing.
free or very cheaply your first products, your first bits of content. So they gave away things like free ebooks, webinars, free stuff for people to dip their toe in the water before making a bigger purchase decision. Then with this product ladder, that offered the next product, which is fairly expensive, but not hugely expensive, and get people to buy that first. The higher up the ladder you go, the more expensive the products become. But the psychology here for the end user or the customer is that they've gone this far, so they might as well go for the next one as well. Now, these product ladders eventually enabled them to start to sell courses. The Design Sprint Masterclass was the first proper course that AJ&Start started to sell.
He said AJ&Start, he fucked up.
Was priced somewhere around the €1,000, $1,000 kind of mark. The last time I was able to get any figures, there had sold over 7,000 or 8,000 of these courses. So straight away, you can see that this experiment has generated multi-million dollars in revenue. But of course, with AJ&Smart, it doesn't stop there. Once they had started to exhaust that initial user base that they built up through their content, they started to take it even bigger. So starting with the same customer segment that we had previously, individuals wanting to run a design sprint, they'd already exhausted their subscribers and email list, so they had to find new people. So they started to create a B2C sales and marketing funnel.
Yes.
So their key resources were very much focused on marketing and selling courses for people that were looking to start to run their own design sprint.
Yeah, once we ran out of people on the mailing lists, myself and Laura basically just built an entire paid and organic marketing team here at AJ&Smart, and yeah, that's the 90% of the workshopper team. No, actually, 100% of the workshopper team is basically a marketing machine.
Sprints. Now, of course, they had this product ladder already in existence, ways to upsell people, and a step-by-step approach going from a free product to something that's...
This is something that I've seen people do on Twitch. I'm going to let this run, and I'm going to get myself a quick coffee, and I'll be right back. So there's going to be like 2 minutes here where you're just listening to Spencer. I know this is cheeky, but why? Why not? Well, let's just try it.
Quite expensive, but they didn't have the mechanism at that point in order to go and get those people. So what, of course, they did was started to generate some ads. Now, these ads were generally in Facebook and Instagram, really trying to focus on individuals that showed some kind of interest in design thinking, in creating new products and learning about design sprints. And they were able to very narrowly target those people in order to get them into the top of the funnel and then work their way through the product ladder. Starting off with how to run design sprints, of course, they were able to sell courses, but because of the product ladder again, their price increased with the deeper that people got into the AJ&Smart world. What this then did was started to increase their social community. They started to get even more super fans that ultimately went back into this ladder and started to go for more expensive products, selling products from ranging from £1,000 per seat up to 3,000. They even created a super exclusive top end product for around €25,000. Let's go over that one more time to really get a grasp of what AJ&Smart did to completely transform their business. Having run hundreds of design sprints, they knew that there was a demand for people wanting to learn how to run design sprints themselves. So their customer segment went from a B2B proposition to a B2C proposition. They started off looking at their current audience list on YouTube and through email. But when that kind of saturated, they started to do some B2C selling, creating a funnel-based marketing and sales approach. They had a product ladder that gave away free content, ebooks, webinars, in order to get people going, in order to build the trust. Now, these initial products were still very high value. They just weren't as big as the full course. And it whetted the appetite for so many people that were able to move through that product ladder in order to increase the value that they were able to capture from each customer. They sold courses about how to run design sprints, generating enormous revenues. Now, those people went on to deliver design sprints themselves and generated massive income, which gave them an enormous social community of people that really trusted them. They then became super fans themselves. Going back into the product ladder, they were able to increase the price. The higher up the ladder, those individuals started to go. But of course, don't forget that both of these business models were operating at the same time, just with different teams. And now they did actually link together at times as well. Because of course, these superfans often were working with these big organizations themselves. Some of them were actually feeding into the B2B leads for the other side of the company. So actually, these two business models, whilst at first they look like they don't link together, it's actually a B2C to B business model, which means that both sides of the business can actually thrive. Now, I know that that's a lot.
And I honestly do think every agency should have this set up. This, here's the lower price things where we teach what we do so you can do it yourself. And as you work your way up the ladder, the things get more expensive and the things are more hands-on and more consulting-y. I think everyone should have this business model.
Lot to take in, but hopefully you're starting to see now that if you're an agency or consultancy that might be looking to productize your offer, you can do that in the kinds of ways that AJ&Smart have done it, but also that the power of the business model canvas is enormous.
I think you did a great job there, Spencer. Really, really good breakdown of the business model. Obviously, there's some detail missing, and the other thing is, it seems like it all happened on purpose, but it didn't. It just kind of played out year by year. This is the 12th year of AJ&Smart, so yeah, it wasn't always that clear and running so well. It was just a slow, like, for example, the reason that we created the first Design Sprint Masterclass course was because we had cash flow issues when it came to the agency side of the business. So, I needed to find something that was better for cash flow, that was better for just having something sort of regular in the bank account. And that's why I decided to create the Design Sprint Masterclass. And it's a really, really great breakdown. Not other than that, but yeah, we have another interesting thing is we keep the teams very separate. I keep the teams very separate. I spoke about that a couple of episodes ago. I still do that. So even though I started the online course business within AJ&Smart with the intention of slowly integrating it in once it had started to make some money, eventually I was like, actually, this team works really well without any interaction from the other team. And so I just decided to keep them separate still. And now we're slowly starting to figure out how to integrate them and how to make it so that we can bring leads from one team, bring leads cleanly from the B2C business to the B2B business. It's still a big, messy work in progress, and it always looks more intelligent when you're looking back on it, even though, of course, it was chaotic in actual real life. Okay, so we're going to take a quick break, and when I'm back, we're going to take a look at your messages, your emails, your comments, and I'm going to answer your questions. And again, thank you so much for listening. Let's chat in a few seconds. Oh, no, not that song. Now let's take a look at your messages. If you want to write into the show All you got to do is go to howtobusiness.substack.com, go to the latest episode, and you can leave your comments right there. You can also go to the YouTube video and comment under that, and I'll check those too. But again, I don't know the link to that right now as I'm recording this. So, you can go to howtobusiness.substack.com, click on the latest episode, and you'll be able to get your messages read out on this podcast, if that's what you want, if that's the thing that you want. All right. So I'm going to be, it's a mixture of questions and comments, and I'm just going to read through a couple of them. Velen Chu says, "Hey Jonathan, really like how unscheduled the episodes are. It feels like something that everyone's missing in the podcast space. A couch, a room, some drinks, and ramble away with some useful little nuggets, chilled back and laid back conversation where only the personality shines." Thanks so much, Velen. Really appreciate it. I'm also enjoying this more than any sort of hardcore edited things we have to do. I do like being able to just get up and get a water while something's playing. And look, I'm just testing the boundaries of creating content where I can create it consistently and in a way that I enjoy it. And, I'm also not feeling so good today. I have a sore throat. I'm a bit sick, but I can still create the content. That's the goal. And again, I do have a strong belief that there are people out there who just want long form comfort noise. I'm just going to move this. Wait a second. I've got this lamp that's touching on something and it's going to burn. Let me just do this quick. Yeah, I do think there's a space for this type of content, which is very unedited. It's not about learning necessarily. It's more like having a chat with me. And it's more like what it would be like if you were sitting down at dinner with me and I was just rambling away. And it's also relaxing, hopefully. Something to just put on in the background. You don't have to learn anything from it. That's my goal. And I know, again, of course, there's people who are like, don't like that. And I understand. But that's what I like and that's what I want to do. Devin Craig asks, "Hey Jonathan, are the free trainings you do as marketing hosted by you and AJ&Smart, or do you partner with other organizations to help you promote to your target market? Also, do you host them only in person or also virtual? And again, how do you get attendance?" Okay, partnership or just ads. We fill these events up using our mailing lists, and we fill our mailing lists up by, sending people to our mailing lists from YouTube and other channels, but also paid ads. We host these events ourselves at our office here in Berlin. We do the entire setup ourselves, the entire production ourselves. And so everything ourselves. We promote it ourselves. We do everything. And it's also virtual. It's always virtual. And he also follows up and says, do you only market them to your current lists or do you spend money on ads? We mostly market them to our current lists, our relatively warm lists. But if we can't fill up an event, we will do ads for an event. Yeah. If you want to learn about these events, listen to last week's episode. Have a look here. Roddy Vonk. Thanks for the podcast again, Jonathan. I do not have a question, but wanted to make a comment on the whole being unscheduled as a CEO thing. It reminds me of a book I've been reading called Be Less Zombie by Elvin Turner. It's about innovation for leadership, and one of the chapters is about the author having been in many boardrooms and being surprised by the fact that so many top-level people are busy with the day-to-day stuff. But in the book, from the perspective of innovation, these are the people that should be busy with more visionary things. I agree. Learning. Oh, why did it pop there? Let's see. No fucking idea. learning about trends in society, technology, in politics, etc., to be able to develop a strategy to guide the organization in the future. Day-to-day stuff should be the to-do list of managers just below them in the hierarchy. The whole unscheduled approach you discussed reminds me of this book. Yeah, I 100% agree. That's my job at AJ&Smart, is to like look for what's going on in the market, be on the lookout for new things to do as a business, and I'm not managing people. I'm not doing invoices. I'm not trying to get clients, and I'm not doing client work. I say to entrepreneurs, if you're trying to build a real business, you should not be doing client work, sales, or management. Those three things. All right. Colum writes in. Oh yeah. Colum was one of the people who was saying that episode 2 was a bit episode 2 was a lot better than episode 1 because episode 1 was so rambly. He writes, it's kind of like a bit of a script here, dialogue. Jonathan, if you thought episode 2 was better than episode 1, then you're going to like this one. You're not going to like this one. Colum, grr. But in fact, it isn't that bad. He said the last episode wasn't that bad. Thank you, Colum. Lots and lots of good stuff in there amongst the ramblings. Indeed, some of the best insights are buried within the ramblings. And I'm also glad to be a member of the Irishman wearing Birkenstocks Club. 3 members so far, Pierce, Jonathan, and myself. Guys, if you're not wearing Birkenstocks, it's a problem. Sam Pedersen asks, do I think passion is overrated? Yes. I'm not like passionate. It's not like I'm going around every day getting up in the morning and I'm like, oh my God, facilitation. Oh my God, design sprints. Oh my God, this is my life. But yeah, I get really interested in these things for a little while, and then I get obsessed with them for a little while, and then I integrate them. But it's not like passion. It's more like, no, I don't know. I'm not so passionate about so many things. For me, I guess I'm passionate about being independent and not having anyone telling me what to do. And I like running a business, but I definitely think passion is overrated. I know people say like, find your passion, follow your passion. I don't know what my passion is. So yeah, I think I do think it's one of those things that, oh shit, I just fucked with the screen now. If you change the size of the screen, it changes it here too. So yeah, I'm not a big passion guy. Yeah, it's not my thing. Vasil asks, and finally someone asked me some questions that I actually care about. And I'm just kidding. What games are you playing? Any favorites? And what's good for single player and what's good for multiplayer? I'm currently still playing Elden Ring on the Xbox One X, Xbox Series X, and I love it. It's definitely one of those games where I'm constantly in awe of the work that the developers have done. And when I see a creation like this, it just blows my mind. I'm just like, everything I'm doing is crap compared to this. Like the amount of effort and love that goes into every moment of that video game, I just don't know how they got it done. I really don't know how the From Software team created Elden Ring. Beautiful game, super impressive technically, and just unbelievable. I don't know how humans created this. I'm also playing, I also have a Steam Deck at the moment, which Amber from AJ&Smart has given me a loan of, and I'm playing Vampire Survivor. My girlfriend's also playing this. It's super fun. So that's a super fun single player game. So yeah, Elden Ring, Vampire Survivor, and the last big multiplayer game I played was Valheim. Really loved it. Really amazing. But I love video games, but I don't play them so much. I generally find my work to be more of a video game than video games. So it's actually hard for me to do other stuff besides work. And no, that doesn't mean I'm a workaholic. It just means I like work more than most things. So it's hard to get me to do anything besides like tinker around on the business. By the way, if I sound low energy, my voice is just fucked, so I have to be quiet. I'm like speaking very quietly here. Oliver writes, "Hey Jonathan, I really like the last 2 episodes. The topic of work-life integration, aka how do I have social interactions while hustling, resonates with me. I have no solutions for that. I can only 100% agree. I learned that everybody likes to meet and hang around, private and business, but only a small percentage take actions and create opportunities. When you create opportunities, hey, like to hang around, people will happily join and thank you for that. Just like the article you're reading out loud, you have to actively manage it. Otherwise, it won't happen, like working out and other stuff." Okay, I think then he moves on to a different topic. "Your selling strategy, free workshop with hard sell at the end, piqued my interest. Can you please dive deeper into that in a later episode? Like, how did you end up doing that, and why does it perform better than email whatsoever, or making a landing page?" We've been doing these. I'm literally just sitting back and chilling right now. If you're looking at, hey, we've been doing this method of selling for a very long time. These live streams, these live trainings, I learned them from just the whole direct sales marketing world uses them a lot, these free trainings, webinars, whatever they are. And I just tried one time, and it just worked. It sold really well. And I think why it sells well is because it's like a 2-hour session where people get to know you. They're coming to learn. They're not coming to buy something. So they're coming to a free training, which is a lot easier to get people to go to than a landing page or just sales emails. And it warms people up to the product you're going to sell them. So we basically do like an hour and 30 minutes of teaching. And then we'll do like a hard pitch at the end where we're like, this is the product, this is how much it costs, we'd like you to buy it. And then we'll follow up with a lot of emails over the next few days. So we put a limit on how many days you can buy it so that there's some urgency, and then we really do close it. For us, it's just been an extremely great way to sell online courses or sell, our retreat last year that we sold out. We did that with a live stream. It just makes people, I guess it creates a lot of urgency. The live aspect of it makes it really interesting. You can do a live Q&A, so you can already answer people's questions and worries that they have about buying the product, the things that maybe they would stop them buying the product. You can answer that live on air. And it's fun as well. If you've ever been to one of our live streams, we make it, I kind of got inspired by Tony Robbins, and we added music in, and we added new camera angles in, and we danced at the start of this one last week. A lot of dancing. So yeah, I don't know. It also plays to my strengths. I'm sort of, when I'm not sick and not tired, which seems to be always on the podcast, right? I can snap into like a presenter mode quite easily. So yeah, it's just worked really, really well for us doing these things. So every time we're thinking about making a landing page and doing anything like conventional, we always fall back on, fuck it, let's just do a live stream instead. That's what happens. This little click noise, I need to figure out what's causing it next time. Maybe it's this cable? No? Is it this? No? I think it's static. Okay, so yeah, that's the Oliver. That's the reason why. I hope that makes sense. We just love doing live streams. They're super fun. But next month we're probably going to try it without a live stream and just with emails. Matt Dominici says, "Not planning on missing an episode, but when you read the article verbatim, I kind of fell asleep. Maybe just give us the TLDR version, and we're more interested in your thoughts on it." Last week I read an article verbatim. The thing about me giving a TLDR is that I actually have to put effort into that, and I don't want to. So reading the article verbatim is easier for me. And if you learn anything from this podcast, it's about I'm trying to get these episodes out regularly at the expense of it being extremely engaging. So it might not be extremely engaging, but they're happening all the time. And maybe they'll get more engaging over time. I think today, adding the video aspect is going to make it a bit more engaging, even if I am lower energy than usual. So I get the fact that you think last week's episode was a little bit boring when I was reading the article. I agree. But this episode's not about, you know what? If you fall asleep listening to these episodes, it's a good thing. This is a comfort noise podcast. It's not about, you don't have to sit down with your notepad. Just listen to it and chill, That's the goal of this podcast. It isn't about just like hardcore learning. That's my like art direction on this thing anyway. I don't think I can do much more. My voice is just dying more and more every minute. I'd love to get the podcast up to 2 hours or even longer. If you're enjoying it, if you're enjoying this podcast, please let me know. Remember, you can write into howtobusiness.substack.com and just go to the latest episode. Just type your comment onto this episode and I'll read it out next episode. You can also comment under the YouTube video. Maybe by the time this episode comes out, if the YouTube video has worked well, I'll put the link in the description. Just subscribe to that channel. It's probably going to be like called the Unscheduled CEO on YouTube. Subscribe to that channel and then you'll get the videos. If I keep making the videos, let me know if you like the video format. I know it's just like me sitting here with no editing, but let me know if you liked having that on in the background while you're cooking and just being able to see me actually do things. Let me know in the comments on YouTube, and please do share the podcast or share the episode on YouTube if you enjoy listening to this kind of stuff. Because for me, it's all about the numbers, and if the numbers go down, I'll just stop making the episodes. So if you really like this, help me out and get some more people listening to it. Thank you so much. If you got this far, if you got to the end of the episode, thanks for listening. I really appreciate your time. Next week, we're going to be talking about getting what you want and like tactics for getting what you want out of life. I've got quite a few things around that topic. It's just a deeper topic, so I said I won't do it this week. And I think I also skipped it last week. And thanks so much. And it's been fun figuring all of this technical stuff out. Even if the podcast fails miserably, it's been real fun to just learn how to do all this stuff. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you all next week. Thank you, and bye-bye.